absolutely needed. I may have had a moment where I had to choose between, oh, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? What do I need most? But there's never been a moment where God has not, I've never starved, never not been able to pay rent. He's always shown up and he's always paved the way.
Yeah.
So now that we've kind of talked about keeping God in the center and how important it really is and how he continues to show up in our lives, can you take us through a little bit of what it looks like with your clients and how you work with them to really grow their business using godly principles from the Bible?
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned earlier, it depends on the client. If I know the client is Christian, is a believer, then a lot of the times I will use specific verses and reel them into marketing strategies, or reel them into how they should be handling money, how they should be handling people, and the way they show up and serve. Mm-hmm. And I will highlight specific verses, and we will literally talk through it as if it's a whole sermon right there. Yeah, it's great. But for those that aren't, or maybe I just don't know what their religious belief is, that's totally fine. I take an approach where we center it around their business and specific marketing strategy, but I sprinkle in the roadmap Jesus gave. So as I mentioned, something that I always share or talk about is authentic marketing. And I might not blatantly come out and say in those sessions that, Jesus was authentic. He was bold. He was confident in anything that he did or talked about as he went about his mission in life. Mm-hmm. But I'll say those terms. Like, I'll literally think about Bible stories and I'll pull in those examples within those sessions by saying things like, okay, be bold, be confident. Hey, be selfless. Hey, okay, let's switch your marketing strategy, be more authentic in this way, so that you can relate more to the audience that you're serving. So it's interesting. I'm pulling from the attitude of Jesus, but might not say the word Jesus in order to scare my client away.
Right.
And I've found that this way I really plant the seed in shining Jesus's light in that session, but at the same time plant the seed in just a different approach to coaching. Like, I think people are so overwhelmed at the hustle and the competition out there to build a business that a lot of times it can eat them. It just eats at them, right? The comparison game eats at them. They're, wondering how they're gonna make more sales or grow their income, eats at them. Right. But it's like when you kind of switch your mind and focusing on the mission and the serving attitude of things and the confidence of things, all of that other stuff follows suit. So yeah, it just depends on the situation with every student or client that I teach one-on-one. But I would say in general, like if I'm doing a social media post or like a webinar to the masses or something that could reach anyone, whether they're Christian or not, I say and talk and teach about what comes naturally to me. And what comes naturally to me is Jesus's roadmap of life and everything.
Yeah. No, that's so good. And I love that you talked about how, people kind of get lost in that comparison aspect and stuff. There's so many people out there doing so many different things now. So it can really be hard to get lost in that comparison and, oh, I'm not like this person, I have to be like this person. But like you said, when you have the confidence and you're bold and you have those characteristics that Jesus portrayed, none of those things even matter anymore.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It was almost like a clarifying moment for me in that moment when you said that. It was just kind of like, wow, I haven't really experienced any comparison lately because I'm so in alignment with where God is calling me to be. And that's why it's so important, I feel like, to find your divine purpose from God, because he created you uniquely to be different than, there's other people out there who are doing a podcast and trying to promote people to live their lives better. But how did God create me to be different, to showcase that in a different way? How did God create you to be different, to showcase building your business in a different way than normal business coaches teach people to build their business? Yeah. So that's why I hit so much on why it's so important to find your specific divine purpose from God. And it takes a lot of uncomfortable conversations with yourself, a lot of self-reflection So kind of take us through what your journey has looked like within that, because I mean, I know you've grown through this whole process. So what kind of challenges have you faced within that, and how have you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, that is a great question. I would say I feel like I reached a point where I realized that I was trying to be like all the other entrepreneurs or creators out there, because I was seeing what was working so well for them, and I was like, subconsciously was like, oh, okay, if it works for them, it can work for me too. And I believe that's only to an extent, right? Like, if they become successful, like, yeah, you can become successful too, but in your own way, in your own path, with your own voice, with your own approach, the way that God is calling you specifically to.
Yeah.
So I had to come to a point where I was like, I don't want to be like every other entrepreneur out there. I don't want to be like every other business or life coach out there. I want to be the woman that God is uniquely, specifically calling me to be, which means that my path is going to look different. What I talk about is going to look different. How I talk about it is going to look different. My approach is going to be different. And being content with that being content with the differentiation, and I can't say the word, being content with it being different.
Yes, I was just about to say, just keep it different.
Yeah, keep it different. But yeah, like, and finding joy in that, and finding fun in that, and getting to the point where you do not care. Like, I feel like I'm finally getting to the point where I do not care what people think about me. I do not care about the social media numbers. I do not care how someone else's success looks versus mine. Like, I'm learning to find the fun and the joy and the beauty in the adventure that I am on, specifically as I journey towards my own success on God's terms and on God's timing. And that just took time. But I feel like you really have to get to a point where you don't care. Like, you're literally like, okay, God, I'm going to do it your way. I'm going to be unique. I'm going to be different the way that you created me to be. And I'm going to do this thing. And I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know the end result, but I trust your terms. I trust your timing. And that's it.
Yeah, no, that's so good. So very good. Yeah, I actually just had this talk with myself recently about how I was kind of looking at, you know, you follow other podcasters who are kind of doing what you do in a sense. And I was looking at the way that they talk, the way that they run their podcast episodes, the way that they do things. And those thoughts started coming up like, oh, I should kind of change this. I should do this like them. I should be more like them. And I'm like, no, you have to step back and realize, like, okay, you are who you are for a reason. You talk the way you talk for a reason. Like, it came down to the way that they were talking in their episodes. I was like, I don't really sound like that. Like,
right.
But you have to remind yourself that that is who God created you to be. So if you try to be anything else, that's out of alignment with the will that He has for your life.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Yeah. So when you have that clarity and that focus, it truly just makes everything so much easier.
Right. And I can't emphasize enough that in order to get that clarity and that focus and that confidence, you have to not care what people think about you.
Yes.
You have to not care so much about the perfection of your content and, you know, is this going to work? Are people going to relate to this? Like, you might have stuff, you might have products, services, or pieces of content that completely tank.
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, you, as long as you are stepping into who God is calling you to be, just who cares? Be consistent with it, have fun with it, and let it grow over time as you pivot and figure out what works.
Right.
You know, everything just takes time at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, taking messy action is the best way to go, because it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to know what works. Who knows what the heck Instagram's algorithm is? I don't think anybody knows at this point.
When I tell you, Stephanie, when I tell you I am so over the algorithm, the social media algorithm, and this is what works and this is what doesn't. And I am over it.
Yep.
Like,
I'm doing
done. And it's so funny because it's like I will know it because I want to be able to teach my students and clients about it. But I'm also going to teach, hey, regardless of the algorithm, do not care.
Right.
Be yourself, be confident, be the woman or man that God is calling you to be, and just post, just go, just pivot. You will figure it out. The algorithm will eat at you like crazy, and it will make you feel like you are not good enough. Your content isn't good enough. You are failing. Forget it. Like, just keep being you, and it'll work itself out at the end of the day.
Yes, no. I could not have said it better myself, because I'm trying with this whole algorithm thing, and I'm just like at the point where it's like, you know what? I'm going to post what I want to post. I'm going to do what I want to do. And at the end of the day, if it blows up, it blows up. And if not, okay, my 30 followers got to see it.
And that's it. Like, that's literally it. That's literally it. And sometimes when I feel like I'm stuck at a number, right? Sales, social media, email list size, and I'm wanting to scale it, but for some reason I'm stuck. There is a level of that of, okay, what am I doing that's not working that I need to stop doing? And what areas do I need to double down on that I know actually work so that I can grow to that next milestone? There's a level of that. But there's also a level of humbleness when it comes to the fact that maybe God needs you to stay there right now. Maybe God knows that you only have the capacity to teach, to take care of, to be consistent with that audience size right here. He knows your capacity better than we know our own capacity. Maybe he needs you here first to continue serving, to continue learning, to continue taking care of that audience size. And then when you're ready, you'll get up here. You know? Like, I feel like it's a balance of both things. And once we realize that, we start to not be so obsessed with the numbers all the time. And we start to just find joy and fun in where we're currently at, and just trusting God with the rest as we pivot our way through.
No, that's absolutely incredible what you just said, because I was going to hit on that. It's just like, there may be something that God needs you to grow through in order for you to get to that next level. And I find myself I find myself in that moment right now. I'm trying to really grow through this season. It's definitely a growth season. And trying to figure out, okay, what are the qualities, or where do I need to make more room for what's coming? Because you know it's coming. You feel it coming, but you also know that there's not really much room for it to come. So I'm personally in that season of like, okay, where do I need to make room? What do I need to do in order for God to give me what is coming to me?
I love that so much. Yeah, exactly. And you have to be willing to have that conversation with yourself and with God of, okay, where do I need to make room? And be willing to let some stuff go, because he might ask you to let things go that you don't want to let go of. But again, when you do
just let it go.
Just let it go. I'm telling you, God's way is always better. Always.
Seriously. It's so much harder to just let it go. But after you let it go, it's like, bruh, why did I hold on to it for so long?
Man, yes. Oh my gosh. 100% agree. Always. Yep.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you really want to share with the audience, any business owners listening, anybody looking to start a business? Is there anything that you really want to say regarding anything regarding our conversation, really?
Yeah. Great question. I just want to leave this episode giving some encouragement, or some advice, I should say. If you are feeling stuck in your business, and you have been for a really long time, I encourage you to pivot from looking at your business strategy to instead looking at your relationship with Jesus. A lot of times when things aren't working, or when we're stuck, we're trying to figure it out, and we're looking at the business strategy, the tactics, the data, the analytics. Again, yes, do that. But I encourage you first to reflect inward and look at your relationship with Jesus first, because you will find that there is something missing from your relationship with Jesus that is needed in order for you to sustain the business, to get to that next level that you're so desperately trying to reach. So start there. Like there has been moments where I have had to lay down my business for